Am I the asshole? I didn't tell my boyfriend my son was adopted. I, 34F, have a 10-year-old son we'll call Arthur. I adopted him when he was 2, as his godparent, after his mother passed away and his father was never in the picture. Arthur has always had trouble making friends, but he made a great one this past year. A 10-year-old boy in his grade, who we'll call Elliot. I didn't plan on it, but Elliot's father, 38M, who we'll call Edward, and I became very close. We come from very different backgrounds. Edward grew up in a stable, high-income home, mostly raising Elliot in Europe until about a year and a half ago when they moved to our area. I grew up in a poor family and was raised by my uncle after my mother died. I had a rough childhood and was involved in crime when I was younger, but I've been on the straight and narrow for Arthur's sake. I didn't want my relationship with Edward to affect Arthur and Elliot's friendship, but after agreeing that the boys would always come first, we began loosely dating about a year ago. A few weeks ago, Arthur got really sick while Edward was watching him. I was an hour away fixing something at a friend's house, and Edward took Arthur to the ER when things got worse. His appendix had burst. When I got there, Arthur was in surgery, and he went into anaphylactic shock due to the anesthetic. The doctors started asking about family medical history, and I couldn't provide any information since I'm not biologically related to Arthur. I never knew his mother's family. Edward tried to help, but I was panicked and lashed out, saying that Arthur wasn't my biological son. Edward walked away to give me space. Arthur's fine now, but he had some complications and spent a few weeks in the hospital. Since then, Edward and I have barely spoken because of an argument that followed. Edward was upset that I hadn't told him Arthur was adopted. I can understand why, but it never came up, and I didn't see the point in mentioning it. I wasn't hiding it, but I didn't have concrete plans to tell him, either. The situation escalated, and we both said hurtful things. I brought up Elliot's mother, who I knew nothing about. I didn't really care about her, but I made it seem like I did. From what I knew, Edward had raised Elliot on his own. I feel like our situations are similar, but Edward insists they're different. He says it's relevant that Arthur isn't biologically mine, but I don't think it changes anything. I didn't want Arthur to know he was adopted before he could fully understand. We've never had an argument like this before. The only time we had a similar conversation was when I told him about my past. I felt like that was relevant because it directly involved me. He was understanding then, and there wasn't nearly as much conflict. Now I'm unsure if not telling him about Arthur was the right decision. He's a kind man, but this caught me off guard, and we both said things we regret. Am I the asshole for not telling my boyfriend my son is adopted? Not the asshole. At this point, Arthur is your child. You are his mom. The details are nobody else's business. Besides, it's not like you hid this from Edward. It just never came up. Because it doesn't sound like you even think about it anymore. Which makes you a great adoptive mother. I mean, he's been in your life almost a decade, and I suspect that you aren't thinking every day, adopted, adopted, adopted. Why would you even share that with Edward? I mean, maybe you would, if it came up or if you happened to be talking about that period of your life, or maybe it wouldn't. Either way, I just don't see the problem. You are the asshole. Your son is far too old not to know his adoption story. We start telling babies before they're verbal. Your choice, if true, is abusive and will cause him trauma. Because he is so old, you need to find a family therapist immediately and work with them to tell this boy his history right away and help him process his birth mother's death. I don't care about this boyfriend of yours, but his attitude about adoption is gross. I didn't want Arthur to know he was adopted before he could fully understand. Everyone sucks here. Your boyfriend's reaction was too much and his comment about biology is relevant is weird and insensitive. So were your responses about his ex. But you've been with your boyfriend over a year. This is a topic that should have naturally come up by now, especially if the two of you saw a future together. At 10, Arthur is old enough to understand about adoption, so that's not a legit reason for keeping this secret. Not the asshole for not telling your boyfriend, but you are the asshole for not telling your son. At this point, it's going to be very difficult for him to hear, and this is something he should have been told a long time ago. Info. How did you become his godmother? If you didn't know his mother or her family. So when are you going to decide your kid is old enough to understand? Because he'll understand all right that you've lied to him all these years. Would I be the asshole if I withdrew my daughter from sports against my wife's wishes? My daughter, 15 female, is a competitive gymnast. Her team travels all over the country to compete. She is a sophomore in high school and wants to stop competing because her body hurts. She is at the gym 14 hours a week. She lacks the drive and passion for the sport and she wants to do more high school things and concentrate on her studies. She is an honor roll student and takes AP classes in sophomore year. My wife, 43 female, is against it because my daughter's season just started and she made a commitment to the team and she should see it through. We also spent $1,800 this summer on camps and sessions to help her get better. She thinks my daughter will become lazy and want to hang out with friends, and her chores and schoolwork will suffer. I, 43 male, understand my wife's point about the commitment to the team and the money. I also understand my daughter's point about being sore, as I used to be weightlifter and wanting to be more active in high school. I am trying to find middle ground, but I don't think it exists. My gut is to protect my daughter and withdraw her, but I know it will put me in the doghouse big time. I feel stuck between a rock and hard place. Not the asshole. Also, listen to your daughter. Her reasons for wanting to stop the sport are valid. Forget about the money, that's gone. And about her behavior, I'm kind of shocked that your wife doesn't believe in her own daughter. Really, an honor roll AP student isn't going to change overnight. It sounds like your wife is one of those dance moms, only for gymnastics. Just reread logically. At the start of the season is the second best time to pull out of the team. The best time would be at the end of the previous one. Also, your wife says daughter made a commitment to the team? So she cares more about the team than her own daughter? Wow. Not the asshole. The $1,800 is gone, no matter what. It's not coming back. So you can be out $1,800 and have a miserable, resentful child, or you can be out $1,800 and have a happy, balanced child. As for the commitment to the team, it happens. Yes, it's important to honor your obligations, but it's also important to learn that you don't have to sacrifice yourself for others. If your daughter is no longer on this team, are we talking about girls that won't be able to make it to the Olympics because of it? Most likely not. No one is irreplaceable, and someone will take her place. Maybe consider giving her a thinking about it period. Tell her to remain on the team for X amount of time, and then if she's firm in her desire to want to quit, she can. Not the asshole. Her body hurts. At 16, let me repeat, louder, for your wife, your child's 16-year-old body is hurting. Do you, as a parent, willingly accept your child's hurts when they're due to something not needed nor wanted? That's reason enough to justify retiring. I'm sorry. I know it comes hand in hand with competitive sports, but it's her body and her peace of mind. Both need to last for at least 60 more years. Let her be a normal teenager for once in her life. I get where you're both coming from, but you have to put your kid first. You're her advocate. I would also sit down and have a longer conversation with your daughter about her feelings towards gymnastics. It's very possible that she has been feeling this way for a while but was afraid to say anything, or didn't want to disappoint anyone. Her mental and physical health should come before any else. Also, from a safety perspective, if her heart isn't in it, then your daughter is at a greater risk of being distracted and getting hurt. I was like your daughter back in middle school. I wanted to quit gymnastics to focus on school and have more free time. My body was in pain with severe tendinitis, I lacked the drive, etc. My mom don't want me to quit, but eventually she let me, and I've never really regretted it. After quitting, I did other sports like cheerleading and diving. Not the asshole. If her body hurts, it is trying to warn her something is wrong. Your wife is the as it seems only to do with money. If your daughter continues and injures herself, or worse, permanently has health issues because of not stopping, it will cost a lot more money and pain. If being lazy is a concern, then a talk about what she will do instead is in order. My eldest daughter did ballet from age 3 to 16. Just before her 17th, she said she was tired, her joints hurt, her feet were jacked from point, and she knew she would never be a prima ballerina, and it was not worth destroying her body. Okay, then focus on school. She did, and now as a married woman, she is currently going for her PhD and is happy and healthy. Am I the asshole for asking my dad to give me at least half of the money my mom owes me? I, 19F, live with my mom, dad and younger siblings. Ever since I turned 18, I wanted to get a job because I wanted to have money to buy things for myself, but my parents always said no. The little money I got from my dad or aunts, uncles, I'd save, but my mom always asks for it, claiming to have some emergency, and when it's time to pay back the money, she forgets she ever borrowed money from me. She doesn't only forget about money, she also borrows other items from me, breaks or loses them. When I ask if she can get them replaced, she says she never borrowed them or I'm just careless. Due to this, I stopped giving her any money. Recently my uncle sent me some money through my mom's account and she still hasn't given it to me, saying she had some things to buy and she'll return the money soon. It's been 3 weeks now and she haven't given me the money and I have to use it tomorrow, but when I asked her about it again, she told me she didn't get any money from me. So I told my dad to give me at least half the amount she got from me, and she got mad at me, telling me I shouldn't have involved my dad. So am I the asshole? Not the asshole. Your mom is a thief and is stealing from you. Let your uncle know that she has not passed the money over to you and force the issue with your dad. Never lend her anything again, no matter what it's for, as you won't get it back. If you do, then ask for some kind of security on the loan so that you can recoup your costs when she inevitably doesn't pay you back. I'd be checking your credit was still clean and she hasn't run up a bunch of debt in your name. Not the asshole. Set up a PayPal account or something ASAP and tell people to send money there for you in the future so she can't take it. Not the asshole. Maybe your mom has some kind of addiction she's hiding. Perhaps having to sit down with your dad and discussing the repeated pattern of behavior is the first step. You are now 18. Get a job, a bank account, and a Venmo. I'm not sure of your situation, but financial control is one measure of abuse. Info. Why are your parents barring you from getting a job? Why do your parents keep financial secrets from one another? It sounds like there may be some serious codependency issues going on here. You're 19. You shouldn't need permission to get a job. Get one. Start saving. Move out when you can. Also check your credit report to make sure they haven't been using your SSN to rack up debt. That's a shit situation and your mom is clearly a thief. My mom was the same, but not that bad. Can you just move out into a share house or something? Am I the asshole for telling my sister's fiancé that she is infertile? I will try to keep this as simple as possible. My 26M sister Emma 29F was very sick in high school. Her choice was either to die young or be able to conceive children. It was a hard decision for her and she doesn't like to talk about it. She has been dating Adam 29M for about 6 years and he is really nice. The whole family loves him. He proposed to her last year and they were planning to marry in March next year. But here is the problem. Adam really wants children. He always plays around with our little cousins at family events and talks about what he wants to do and teach his future children. We always thought that they were just going to be adopting, so we never brought it up. But since the engagement I have noticed that he always talks about them as their children, as in biological. I don't know how to explain it, but it didn't seem like they were going to adopt a child. After thinking about it for a while I decided to talk with Emma about it. I asked her out and gently brought up the topic. She did seem a bit angry about me mentioning it, but she explained to me that Adam treats adoption the same as giving birth and that he is happy all the same. It sounded believed, but I know my sister, she was lying. During the entire conversation she could not look me in the eye. After a month I finally decided to talk to Adam. This Sunday we were gathered at my parents' house for dinner, and while everyone was busy and we were alone I asked Adam how the adoption proceedings were going. Were they going to start now or after they got married? He looked surprised, and asked me what I was talking about. I mentioned how he wants many kids, so they should probably be starting with the whole process early. He asked me if Emma wants to adopt a child because they had never talked about it. Since my parents were coming back I asked him to talk to me later. Around the end of dinner I asked him for some help with my phone and lead him to the balcony, and I was honest with him. I asked him if he knew that Emma can't have children. At first he thought I was joking, but when he saw that I was serious he got this dead look on his face. I told him some of the details and said that it would probably be best if he talked with Emma for the full story. He was quiet for the rest of the evening. When they got how they apparently got in a major fight. I know that he is currently staying with friends and asked for the ring back but nothing else. Emma hates me. And our parents are mostly on her side and think that I shouldn't have said anything. I thought I was doing the right thing. This is such a huge secret to keep from your future partner, but maybe it really wasn't my place to say anything. Not the asshole. Though I think I would have first told my sister, I know you're lying, either you tell him the truth or I will. But honestly she had 6 years to tell him. The guy needed to know. I'm probably going to be the later here and say you're not the asshole. Most people will say you are, that it was not your business to tell, but I am of the firm belief that you had every right to tell. She was lying to him and trying to trap him in a marriage knowing she could not give him the one thing he wanted. If she had been upfront and they decided together that it was okay and adoption was fine, then that is different, but they didn't. She lied. I am sorry, she's your sister, but she is getting what she deserved because you cannot start a marriage with lies. I hope your parents wake up, because letting her think this is okay is wrong. You did the right thing, of that I have no doubt, because I cannot have kids and my husband knew way before we even started talking about marriage. It was one of the first things I told him. Not the asshole. Emma told you that Adam knew about her infertility. She lied to you just as she lied to Adam, but you can tell her and your parents that you sincerely thought you could broach the subject with him. Of course they all know that Emma lied in the first place, to him and to you. Her marriage would have gone down the drain after a few years, once the truth came out. The ideal would have been complete honesty on Emma's part. But your betrayal of her, because I know she will consider it a betrayal, is nothing, compared to her betrayal of Adam. Except the fiancé. You for telling something that wasn't your damn place. Your sister for not being honest to someone she planned to marry. You tell him by date or I will, is more than reasonable. You did not do that. Once your sister told you that they were adopting, you were clear to talk to the fiancé about that. The fact that he knew nothing about it wasn't up to you. Yes, you suspected your sister was lying about adoption, but that's whatever. Yes, you are the asshole. I'm not sure what happened to your sister, but it's 2024 and there are many, many ways to conceive and even birth, children. This was not your story to tell.